Even though the Dreamcast is my favorite console of all time, back in the day, the 6th generation console of choice for me was the beloved Nintendo Gamecube. And after Sega went under with the Dreamcast, they decided to port a lot of the games to the Gamecube. Now, my first experience with Sonic Adventure was actually on the Dreamcast when I got it. However, I got one of those faulty PAL discs that was manufactured with a defect, so the game would just boot again and hang up in the middle of playing. So even though I first played the first few levels on the Dreamcast, my actual playthrough I did on my GameCube over here. Nowadays people know the GameCube version is anything but an improvement of Sonic Adventure, so I want to spend today's video talking about both versions, and we'll also look at Sonic Adventure 2 right afterwards. Well, here we go, Sonic Adventure head-to-head. The original Dreamcast version on the left and the GameCube re-release as Sonic Adventure DX on the right. And the first difference that you will not be able to tell in this video, because I didn't film it that way, is the frame rate in the GameCube version is actually 60 FPS, which is double of that of the Dreamcast original, which always ran at 30 FPS. For a fun and fast platformer like Sonic Adventure, 60 FPS actually makes a big difference, and it feels, well, let's say a lot better to control, but the game is made to be played in 30 FPS. A lot of the problems came about from the switch to twice the frame rate on the new console. When you look at a lot of the animations in the game, they're sped up, they're broken. A lot of things don't quite look right in the port for the GameCube. The other thing that you can see right here is the overall difference in lighting and atmosphere and mood, and you even saw like there was the infamous GameCube glitch of glitching through this platform that never happened to me on the Dreamcast original. That is exclusive, I think, to the DX port, and every time you see a video of someone criticizing Sonic Adventure, you see people glitching through that floor right there. And here you can see the water clipping through the bridge, which does not happen in the Dreamcast original. But going back to the lighting, the Dreamcast original is a lot brighter, a lot more energetic in my opinion. However, that also means that all of the colors kind of clip a little bit, and you could see on the sand at the beach. The detail got lost there. That may just be due to the recording though. Yeah, I did a little cut to resync the gameplay a little bit. Overall, the load times between the two, I filmed the Dreamcast version on a Dreamcast with a mode installed, booting from an SSD. And the GameCube version is played on a Wii through Nintendo, booting from a USB flash drive. And the load times, marginally different, not worth mentioning between the two. However, one big advantage of the GameCube version is you can skip cutscenes. So if you're a speedrunner of the game, don't even bother with the Dreamcast version, sadly, because it does not have that feature. Overall, when it comes to gameplay, there's not a big difference between the two. Of course, the 60 FPS makes a difference in this game, but I don't care about playing this game in 30 FPS. I don't have a problem with that. Here in the end, we'll be able to have a closer look at the Sonic models. On the left, you can see the Dreamcast original, and on the right, you will be able to see the remakes version, and it's actually quite different. They remodel almost all of the characters to have a higher poly count. If we have one thing enough, it's people talking about Sonic Adventure 1 on the GameCube and the Dreamcast online. People are complaining about it. Let's check out Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, because I think this is the more important game of the two. It was one of the last games released by Sega on the Dreamcast, but it was also the first game released by Sega on the GameCube. It was a launch title when the system came out. So this was the first glimpse into what the next consoles could do compared to the just failed Dreamcast. And looking at Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, I can see why a lot of people were, well, disappointed with the next generation of consoles. When you look at the PS2, for example, you know, interlaced picture, disgusting 50 Hz as a standard here in Europe, and overall the picture just wasn't great. And now you look at the GameCube here, you can see some graphical differences. It's just a lot less crisp, a lot less clean on the GameCube. The gameplay, however, made its way over more or less intact when you compare to the first game in the series. Now, Sonic Adventure DX of the first game came out after Battle came out on the GameCube, which is a weird little chronological mix-up. And Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is more or less intact. Both games run at 60 FPS, even on the Dreamcast, which is cool. The first one was 30 FPS. The sequel is a lot more streamlined, a lot more, well, let's say linear. So I think they got a lot more power out of the system thanks to that. So 60 FPS across the board, so the GameCube doesn't even have the upper hand on this one. By the way, if you see the big black bars on the right, because I screwed around a lot in my gameplay of the Dreamcast, I'm often syncing the gameplay. So it's all, you know, synced up again. But looking at this, you know, why would you get the GameCube? Why would you get another system when the Dreamcast looks basically the same, if not better? So I can see a lot of problems people had back then when the Dreamcast died. Especially comparing to the PlayStation 2, of course. But even the GameCube just, you know, stunk compared to it. Of course, we are mostly talking about the ports the system received. Later on, the GameCube produced games that would have been hard to replicate on the Dreamcast, at least with, you know, technology back in the day. But had the Dreamcast lived on for a longer while, maybe we would have seen technical marvels like the way we did later on in the Dreamcast, in the GameCube library, for example. I mean, games like Rayman 3, for example, is always one of my examples for a game that looks absolutely fantastic on there. And that could have easily come out on the 360, I think, and looked just fine on there. If you have only played Sonic Adventure Battle, I don't think you're really missing out. It's more or less a direct port of the Dreamcast version. Unlike the first game, which is actually a lot better on the Dreamcast, you know, in this one, play any version you want. I've heard the PC version is worse than the GameCube one, but if you have to choose between the GameCube and the Dreamcast games, you know, go nuts with whatever controller feels better for you. If you can take the slight hit in texture and visual quality, you know, play the version you want the most. I think the biggest drawback is that Big the Cat was taken out of the GameCube version. On the Dreamcast, Big the Cat is hidden in every level. You can look on the left here. When you follow along on the right side, you will see Big the Cat running down the hill. Big the Cat was not only hidden in every level, you could also press the B button over and over and have him like appear in cutscenes. That's a lot of fun. But he should be on the right side. There he was. Did you saw him on the Dreamcast version? He just ran down the road there. And fun little Easter eggs like that were taken out of the GameCube port. I think he was left in 1 or 2 levels. They forgot to take him out. However, like, he used to be like a pretty fun Easter egg in the original. And that's a sin, in my opinion, taking him out. Maybe it's worth mentioning how I captured this. I have some old janky setup over there. The Dreamcast one was captured via VGA out in 480p, line doubled through an OSSC to like 960p. And the GameCube version was played on a Wii through component cables, also in 480p, but not line doubled. For some reason, my capture card, which is an old like Hapag capture card, does not recognize the Wii signal when I line double it. For some reason, it does for the Dreamcast. So the image quality is a bit different between the systems. It's a lot cleaner. It looks beautiful on the Dreamcast. It was so ahead of its time. I cannot believe that people were happy with when the PS2 came out, with the very muddy, horrible picture quality we got on there. And even the GameCube looked amazing, but not quite like the Dreamcast did. Here in this fight, we see the Phantasy Star Online posters in the background. That's even still in the Dreamcast, in the GameCube version. Even though I don't think the standalone Phantasy Star Online ever came out. Only the episode 1 and 2 bundle. So that's weird that we see an advertisement for a game that never made its way to the system in that form, at least. So the lighting in this battle, it's easy to see the lighting took a hit on the GameCube. It looks a lot flatter, but overall very playable. Thank you very much for watching. Please check out my live stream at the end of my Dreamcast Appreciation Week that I'm celebrating here on my channel. We will do a lot of fun Dreamcast stuff. Also subscribe. I'll do daily shorts and videos about the Dreamcast during my celebration time. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.